I'm Jacinta Cunahan and you're watching Coast Community News 5 at 5, September the 25th. The waiting list for elective surgery on the Central Coast has increased to 353 days, with there being a 400-day wait for those at Wyong Hospital. Also disturbingly, the waitlist for surgery has hit a record high across the state with over 100,000 patients. These numbers come after the state opposition accused the state government of hiding these issues behind COVID. Shadow Minister for the Central Coast, David Harris, said it was appalling that the coast was under such enormous strain. We spoke to both David Harris and Adam Crouch today about their views on how to address the issue in the coming months.
Whilst the COVID-19 pandemic would be an excuse for some of the statistics, it certainly doesn't answer the longer term issue that this elective waiting lists are increasing year on year.
The Health Minister has already been working with the private health sector with regards to non-essential elective surgeries. And yes, we've seen a rise in numbers, and that's because when COVID started, the federal government put a halt on non-essential elective surgeries. So obviously there is a backlog, but I'm pleased to say the state government's been working with the private sector to now say that all non-essential elective surgeries can be carried out in the private sector to help that.
More easing of COVID restrictions in New South Wales have been released this week, with rules around schools, community sport and weddings being laxed. Parliamentary Secretary for the Central Coast, Adam Crouch, told us what this meant for residents and visitors to the region.
Great to see a bit of a relaxation. There are some Year 6 students that are very relieved. They're going to be able to have their graduations now, but also things like weddings, etc., that are being held at places of worship. You can have up to 150 guests. So we're seeing that restrict, and also I think the big one here on the Central Coast is obviously 2 parents attending a child's sporting event. So by us doing the right thing and keeping people safe, doing the social distancing and behaving appropriately, we've seen for the first time ever this week a zero community transmission in Sydney for COVID. Ironically, it was on the Premier's birthday, so it was a great birthday present for all of us and her.
Environmental group Save Our Coast has stepped up its fight against a proposal to drill for gas off the Central Coast. The group has engaged the Environmental Defender's Office to send legal letters calling on state and federal governments for the denial of an application that could lead to industrial-scale drilling off the coast between Newcastle and Sydney. The letter opposes an application by Advent Energy to extend the Petroleum Exploration Permit 11 to enable drilling within the area. And in a direct protest against gas, a group of 20 school climate strike students from across the coast took this issue head-on today by participating in a national environmental protest called Fund Our Future, Not Gas at Gosford Waterfront. Here is what Year 10 student Jaded Delbridge, who helped organise the protest at Gosford, had to say.
There are so many jobs and so much money to be made from renewable energy. We've got, 7 years until our actions are irreversible. We just can't keep waiting and waiting until it's stopped. We've got the Wallara 2 mine up at the north of the Central Coast. It's contaminating our waterways. It's just coal isn't the answer. We need to start moving from gas and stop moving from coal, and we need to really move into renewable energy, really. We know that's the feedback that we've been hearing a lot of, is they don't really want to strike for climate out in public for COVID-19. With these 600 strikes, not all of them are out in public. We've got a lot of private actions, but we've also got a lot of in-home actions. So what that's meaning is just because you're at home doesn't mean that you can't participate. We have a whole load of packs and a whole load of resources that if you go onto our School Strike for Climate website, you can find all about that and how you can help. We're just really need to call the government, send a letter to your local MP. That's something that we've really been pushing on, is after today, that's not the end of it. We need to start moving on to other things and actually getting change happening.
A successful Sustainability Industries Showcase was held last weekend with 15 industry leaders highlighting their future-orientated businesses in TED-style talks. The Berkeley Vale factory of open shutters provided a refreshing COVID-safe backdrop to the showcase. CCN was there to cover the entire 2 days of talks that will be published later this year. Here's a taster from some of the speakers over the weekend.
The Honourable Scott Morrison, our Prime Minister, has mentioned our technology specifically last year at the US General Assembly, where he referred to the catalytic hydrothermal reactor as a very innovative Australian technology.
The federal government released some statistics. 7.3 million tonnes of food is actually wasted through our supply and our consumption chain annually. That's costing our economy $20 to $25 billion.
Now, we've been able to use sustainability ideas to actually make our dishwasher factory profitable, because it's a pretty tough category to make in Australia. And so we've used sustainability ideas over more than a decade to drive down that cost of operations, and I'll talk about that in a minute.
That we think little old Central Coast can play a global role in the hydrogen revolution.
Well, thanks, JC. Last week we looked at the growing rental accommodation crisis across the region. This week we look at traffic movements during the pandemic that arguably reflect economic and social activity across the Central Coast. Data compiled by our local data analytics firm, SeaChange in Gosford, show the dramatic effects that the pandemic response has had on traffic movements. Opal card data compiled by SeaChange shows a remarkable drop-off in train usage. Even now, it appears that numbers of people commuting on the train remain well below the same period last year. Now, the M1 traffic movements also took a major dive in April and have yet to fully recover, as illustrated by this graph. Friday movements in blue and Sunday in red. However, movements are recovering to pre-COVID conditions quickly as car travel is deemed safer than public transport. Gosford Parking Station, the only paid general parking station owned by council in Gosford, provided the following data. This SeaChange graph shows a massive fall-off of parking station usage and still is a long way from returning to its normal capacity of 800 car parking spots.
Thanks, David. Central Coast Council P&C President Sharon Brownlee has called for the Education Minister Sarah Mitchell to implement a single statewide anti-bullying policy for high schools as incident numbers in grades 7 to 12 exceed those in primary. With the Central Coast experiencing an average 30% student mobility, Brownlee said that having a consistent template for how to deal with these issues across all schools will ensure no child slips through the cracks.
Because of the nature of families, housing and the new developments, there's lots of student movement. So as students move from one school to the next, not only do they have to settle and get a new group of peers, as the policies change or are not there for them, they don't have the same framework where they were safe in another school. Students who come to a school that's got a great framework and a policy go, well, no one ever told me we couldn't do that. That didn't happen in our old school. We were allowed to do this. And so you get this inconsistency all the time about expectations of behaviour, and we should have a consistent policy around bullying and what's expected of children in their relationships with each other and with teachers.
Now moving on, let's go to Hayley for this week's sport and weather.
Thanks, JC. Central Coast Heart Opens team has made it 9 from 9 after trumping the Panthers 69 to 46 in round 9 of the Origin Energy Netball Premier League. Heart Club captain Alicia Walsh said the Opens girls defended their undefeated record with a sensational display of netball. And the Central Coast Crusaders Youth League men's have been crowned champions in the 2020 Spalding Waratah Basketball League. A first in Crusaders history. All 4 of the club's senior teams were on court for the finals series, which were played at Sutherland Basketball Stadium over the weekend of September 19 to 20. The Central Coast Roosters will take on the North Sydney Bears in the Harvey Norman Women's Rugby League Premiership Grand Final this Sunday at Bankwest Stadium in Parramatta. The final match will round off a 6-game season between 7 of the best New South Wales clubs, followed by a 4-week final series that has brought the underdog North Sydney team up against the undefeated Roosters. And it's official, the flags are up and Surf Life Saving volunteers will begin patrolling the coast beaches tomorrow as the 2020-21 beach season gets underway. And now to the weather. Tomorrow is looking a little windy, with the temperatures dropping a little lower than today. Overnight will be 6 degrees, coming into 19 degrees as the sun comes up. Winds will be westerly 30 to 45 kilometres an hour. Sunday, partly cloudy, tops of 17 with westerly winds 15 to 20 kilometres, turning southerly later in the afternoon. Back to you, JC.
Thanks, Hayley. Now some inspiration for you. Local frustrated triathlete Stacey Harsh has given up waiting for COVID restrictions to allow her to do a half Ironman event, inspiring her to do her own triathlon starting at Terrigal Haven tomorrow at 6:30. She's raising money for the local mental health charity Arafmi and aims to inspire others to get out there and exercise for their own mental health. So if you see her out there, give her a shout. For more details on all these stories, head to our website and subscribe to our socials for updates during the week. And remember to pick up a copy of this week's Coast Community News and Coast Community Chronicle. And our ending story today, Justice Crew was in Gosford yesterday for the official reveal of the youth centre MMAD's new dance floor. We spoke to the organisation co-founder Dominic Brooke and two of the Justice Crew members about the new space and what it will mean for the kids. Thanks for watching. See you next week.
We're so excited because we've just installed new floors into the lounge room or into the MMAD house, and this is going to create a dance studio that's kind of second to none in the middle of Gosford, and it's a creative space for, you know, all of Gosford young people and programs to help them change their life through dance and music therapy.
For me personally, just showed me and taught me how to open up creatively, because Mad Moves is about musicians making a difference and getting everyone to find that creative side in their life. That's how they helped me through certain things, just say as simple as a writing session for a song, or just say like a dance session, something like that, that you can just feel that you're involved in a safe space where you're able to express yourself to the fullest.
Closely with Sony, and we kind of battle through, we'll work through some of the kids' battles that they're not dealing with, and yeah, turn them into leaders through music.
I wasn't much of a speaker growing up, and I felt I could express myself more through dance. And this is a way to show that, you know, there is a voice other than actually talking. You know, you can express yourself through dance, through art, through music, anything.
In the last 8 years, we'll probably be seeing some of the kids grow from like very young to like now mature adults, and there's this one girl, her name's Bianca, and when we first taught her, she was hiding under the table playing her Game Boy, and now she's out and wanting to be a MMAD mentor. So it gives me goosebumps just thinking about how much she's grown.